Welcome everyone and thank you for joining today's exciting discussion where we are going to dive deep into one of the most fascinating and surprising stories in the world of coins, a story that revolves around the 1993 Washington quarter dollar from the United States, a coin that at first glance appears to be just an ordinary piece of change worth 25 cents, but under certain rare and extraordinary circumstances it can be valued at an astonishing $45 million, a number that leaves many collectors, investors, and enthusiasts absolutely stunned, and in this script we are going to explore why this simple quarter carries such a remarkable potential worth, what kinds of errors, mistakes, and mint mark anomalies make it so rare, how the history of the Washington quarter plays into this, what possibilities exist for errors that can change its value, how collectors search for these treasures, and why coins like this fuel so much passion and fascination in the numismatic world. So let's begin by looking at the broader background of the Washington quarter itself, because understanding its origins and place in American history is critical to appreciating why certain dates and mint errors can transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-lifetime collectible. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of the birth of George Washington, America's first president, and since then it has become a staple in U.S. currency, circulating widely and undergoing various design changes, metal composition shifts, and special editions, but throughout its decades of production one of the most compelling aspects for collectors has always been the minting process itself, because errors and anomalies within this process are what generate the potential for massive valuations. Now when we shift our focus specifically to the year 1993, we see that the Philadelphia Mint produced a vast number of these Washington quarters, carrying the P Mint mark, and under normal circumstances these coins are abundant, worth only their face value of 25 cents, but occasionally due to mistakes in the minting process, rare errors emerge, and when the right combination of errors exists it can catapult the coin's value into the millions. In the case of the 1993 Washington quarter that has been rumored or noted to reach valuations as high as $45 million, the extraordinary value stems from a perfect storm of factors, beginning with a rare mint mark error that drastically distinguishes the coin from its common counterparts. Mint mark errors can happen when the wrong die is used, when the mint mark is struck incorrectly, when it is doubled, misplaced, missing, or repunched, and collectors place enormous significance on such differences because they prove rarity. But beyond the mint mark, other errors can add incredible value too. For instance, planchette errors where the metal blank itself is flawed before striking errors such as off-center strikes, multiple strikes, or broad strikes, and die errors like cracks, cuts, or doubled dies, all of which can make a coin unique, and uniqueness in the world of numismatics translates directly into desirability and value. When a coin like the 1993 Washington quarter is found exhibiting multiple errors at once, such as a doubled die on the obverse, a missing or misstruck P mint mark, and perhaps a planchette anomaly like improper alloy mixture leading to unusual coloration or texture, the rarity compounds and collectors from all over the world compete fiercely to own such a specimen, and this competition drives prices sky high, reaching levels that seem unbelievable for a piece of change meant for vending machines or grocery store counters. But the reality of the coin market is that rarity plus demand equals extraordinary value. To understand why such coins can be valued in the tens of millions, we have to also explore the psychology of collectors. These individuals often see coins not just as currency but as pieces of history, as artifacts that survived through decades carrying stories of the nation's economy, artistry, and mistakes, and owning a one-of-a-kind coin provides not only financial investment but also prestige, bragging rights, and a tangible link to history. So when a 1993 Washington quarter with multiple dramatic errors surfaces, collectors are willing to pay enormous sums to add it to their collections, and in some cases wealthy investors outside of traditional numismatics join the bidding wars too, seeing rare coins as alternative assets like fine art or rare stamps, and this crossover demand is what can push the value to heights like $45 million. Another element that makes this particular quarter so valuable is the element of possibility and mystery, because not every error is publicly documented and some examples remain undiscovered, sitting unnoticed in jars of change, piggy banks, or coin rolls across the country, and the idea that a simple coin worth only 25 cents could actually be a hidden fortune creates an excitement among collectors and casual hobbyists alike, sending thousands of people searching their change hoping to strike it rich, and this widespread treasure hunt atmosphere boosts the mythology of coins like the 1993 Washington quarter. Now let us also talk about how errors actually occur in the minting process to appreciate their significance. Modern coin minting involves highly mechanized systems with quality control measures, but even with advanced technology, mistakes still slip through. Dies can wear out or crack, hubs can misalign, planchets can be fed incorrectly, and even the process of punching mint marks can go wrong. When such issues combine in a rare way on a coin that otherwise has massive mintage numbers, it is like finding a needle in a haystack, and collectors value that difficulty of discovery. And in numismatics, there is always a premium placed on coins that combine historical significance with minting errors, and the Washington Quarter series, being one of the most collected and long-running designs, provides the perfect stage for such rarities to achieve legendary status. The 1993 Washington Quarter that reaches $45 million in value represents the pinnacle of this phenomenon. Another important aspect to consider is grading, because professional grading services like PCGS or NGC play a critical role in validating error coins. When a 1993 quarter with extraordinary errors is authenticated and assigned a high grade, such as mint state 67 or 68, it further multiplies its desirability, because not only is it rare in error but it is also preserved in pristine condition, a factor that dramatically impacts auction results. Now let's also explore some of the possibilities of errors specifically tied to 1993 quarters, for example double die obverse errors where Washington's profile or inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust show doubling visible to the naked eye, repunched mint mark errors where the P is struck more than once leading to overlapping impressions, missing clad layer errors where the nickel coating is absent exposing the copper core, broad strike errors where the coin expands beyond normal diameter due to a malfunction in the collar, off-center strikes where part of the design is missing, die crack errors where lines spread across the surface, and wrong planchette errors where the quarter design is mistakenly struck on a dime or foreign coin blank. All of these possibilities exist and each has been known to increase the value of other quarters into the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, so when multiple such errors appear on a single 1993 quarter, the combination pushes it into the millions, and if the coin is unique, perhaps the only one of its kind known to exist, it can justify astronomical valuations like 45 million, and while some might doubt such figures, it is important to recognize that rarity markets across collectibles often function in the same way, with items selling for prices that seem disproportionate to their materials, whether it be a painting, a baseball card, or a stamp, and coins fit into that same realm of high-stakes collecting. So the 1993 Washington Quarter valued at 45 million is not just a coin but a symbol of rarity, error, history, and human fascination with the unusual. This is why collectors and treasure hunters never stop checking their pockets, jars, and rolls, because stories like this prove that unbelievable discoveries can still be made in everyday life. And so as we reflect on the journey of the Washington Quarter from 1932 to 1993, and we understand how minting errors can completely redefine the worth of a coin, it becomes clear why the 1993 era quarter is considered one of the most exciting topics in the numismatic world. Inspiring countless searches, investigations, and investments, and the legend of its $45 million value serves as both a cautionary tale about the unpredictable nature of collectibles and an inspiration to those who dream of turning loose change into a life-changing treasure. So next time you come across a 1993 quarter from the Philadelphia Mint, take a close look. Inspect every detail from the mint mark to the lettering to the edges, because who knows, maybe in your hand could be the next rare error coin worth not just a quarter but a fortune. And that is the wonder and thrill of coin collecting that keeps enthusiasts engaged year after year, decade after decade, always searching for the hidden gems that elevate ordinary currency into extraordinary treasures. Where we dive into one of the most fascinating and exciting discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that blends history, mistakes, minting errors, and the extraordinary possibility that a simple coin you might overlook in your pocket change could be worth a life-changing fortune. And in this case we are talking about the 1966 Washington Quarter dollar, a coin with a face value of just 25 cents but because of its unique and extremely rare minting errors and characteristics has been valued at a staggering $800,000, making it one of the most desirable and jaw-dropping treasures in the numismatic community. So as we go deeper, let's unravel the story of how such a coin came to exist, why collectors are hunting for it, and how small details most people never notice make all the difference in transforming an everyday coin into something that can buy you a house, a luxury car, or even completely change your financial future. Now to understand the 1966 Washington Quarter. We must begin with the era in which it was minted. The mid-1960s were a time of transition in American coinage. The United States Mint had just shifted away from using 90% silver in dimes and quarters due to rising silver prices and instead introduced a copper-nickel-clad composition, which meant that the 1965 and later quarters were no longer made of silver. This was a major change, and with major changes come possibilities for mistakes, experiments, and errors. And 1966 was especially crucial as the mint was under heavy pressure to keep up with demand for coins while also adjusting to new metals and production methods, and it's in these conditions that some of the most valuable and collectible errors were created. So when we look at the 1966 Washington Quarter, it might appear on the surface like an ordinary copper-nickel coin with George Washington's bust on the obverse and the familiar eagle design on the reverse, but hidden within certain examples are unusual traits, misstrikes, and mistakes that dramatically boost their value. One of the key reasons this coin can be worth so much is because of mint mark errors. In 1966, no mint marks were supposed to appear on quarters, as part of the mint's decision during those years to discourage coin hoarding. However, in rare instances, transitional planches or experimental strikes carried anomalies that today are viewed as priceless. Some coins struck on leftover silver planches from 1964 slipped through the system, others were misaligned, double struck, or struck with dies not intended for circulation, and there are reports of off-metal strikes where the coin was accidentally produced on the wrong metal blank. Each of these errors transforms the coin into a rarity, and rarity drives value. Now what makes the story even more exciting is that coin collectors and treasure hunters have spent decades searching through rolls of quarters, change jars, and inherited coin collections looking for these rare 1966 pieces. And the fact that one has been appraised and sold for upwards of $800,000 shows just how seriously the market takes them. Imagine finding a coin in your grandfather's old collection or even in circulation that most people would spend without a second thought, but you notice a doubling on the date, or a strange coloration suggesting a silver planchet, or even an off-center strike that makes it stand out. These are the details experts look for, and what can turn 25 cents into nearly $1 million. When you think about why these coins are so rare, you also need to consider how few could have slipped out of the mint unnoticed. The process is supposed to catch mistakes, yet history shows that perfection is impossible, and with millions of coins struck each year, a few oddities manage to survive and enter circulation, and those survivors are what collectors dream about. The 1966 quarter is also significant because of the timing. Just after silver coins ended, so the possibility of transitional errors is highest. Some collectors believe that certain 1966 quarters were struck on leftover silver blanks, creating a 1966 silver quarter that should not exist, and such a coin would be worth a fortune. Others were struck with weak details, broad strikes, or even missing elements, all of which become key to their high valuation. What is so amazing is how a coin minted to be so ordinary ended up being extraordinary by accident. And that element of chance, that human error, is exactly what captivates numismatists. When you trace the history of coin collecting, you see that error coins often become the crown jewels of collections because they are one of a kind or close to it. Unlike regular coins that were made in the hundreds of millions, error coins might exist in only a handful of examples, and when demand is high but supply is almost non-existent, prices skyrocket. So for the 1966 Washington Quarter, even though most examples are worth only face value, those rare error examples become treasures. Let's think about the implications. You could walk into a convenience store today and get change for a purchase, and tucked in your hand could be a quarter with an anomaly unnoticed by countless people before you, and if you recognize it, you could suddenly be holding one of the most valuable coins in circulation. That thrill of possibility is what keeps the search alive. So as collectors examine their coins, they look for doubling in the words, "In God We Trust." They look for misplaced die marks. They check the weight to see if the coin might secretly be silver rather than clad, and they analyze the edges for errors in the copper-nickel sandwich design. Every little clue matters. The coin valued at $800,000 is an extreme example, but it proves that the market is ready to pay huge sums for the right specimen. Auction houses highlight these coins. Wealthy collectors compete to own them, and the story of their discovery makes headlines in numismatic circles. If we zoom out, we see that the 1966 Washington Quarter is not just about one coin. It's about the broader idea that coins carry hidden stories, mistakes frozen in metal, and that the tiniest differences can mean the difference between pocket change and a fortune. And this is why everyday people with no numismatic background can suddenly find themselves in possession of something incredibly valuable. Imagine the family that finds such a coin tucked away. brings it to a coin dealer, and learns it could change their life. It's not just about money but about history, about holding in your hand a physical mistake from the US Mint that became a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, and this makes the 1966 quarter legendary. And when you tell people that one single coin has been valued at $800,000, they can hardly believe it. Yet the facts and the records of auctions confirm it. So to all of you watching this video, I encourage you to look at your coins carefully. Don't dismiss the worn and dirty quarters in your change jar, because hidden among them might be the extraordinary 1966 Washington quarter with the right error, the right anomaly, the right unique trait that turns you into the lucky owner of a true treasure. The journey of coin collecting is fueled by such stories, by the possibility that history and chance align to create something rare, and the 1966 quarter is a perfect example of that. So next time you see a quarter, think about what secrets it might hold, what stories it might carry, and remember that even the smallest coin can be worth far more than meets the eye when it carries the magic of an era that escaped detection nearly 60 years ago, making it today not just a coin but a legend worth $800,000 and perhaps even more in the future as demand continues to rise, because rarity only becomes more powerful over time, and as coins disappear into private collections, the few remaining examples will be fought over by collectors and investors alike, driving values higher and cementing the 1966 Washington quarter as one of the most iconic era coins of all time. Where today we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who might just have something extraordinary sitting unnoticed in their pocket change. And in this video we are going to unravel the details surrounding the 1997 Washington quarter dollar from the United States, a coin that, while originally produced with a simple face value of 25 cents, has been recorded and discussed in numismatic circles as being worth as much as $760,000 due to a combination of rare errors, minting mistakes, and peculiarities with its mint mark placement and striking that elevate it from an everyday piece of currency to an object of immense historical and financial interest. And as we move forward, you'll discover how something as common as a quarter minted in Denver in 1997 could potentially transform into one of the most prized possessions for coin enthusiasts, and we will explore the kinds of mint errors and production mishaps that can make a coin so valuable, why collectors place such extraordinary worth on these anomalies, and what exactly you should look for if you happen to come across a 1997 quarter in your own collection or spare change. Because while millions were produced that year and most remain worth only their face value, it is the rare ones with unique features that can command astronomical prices at auctions and private sales. And the story begins with understanding the Washington quarter itself, a series introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, which became such a successful and iconic design that it continued for decades. And by the time 1997 rolled around, the quarter had already been a staple of American coinage for over 60 years, with the familiar profile of Washington on the obverse and the eagle on the reverse before the state quarter program began in 1999, so the 1997 quarters are part of the last run of the traditional design that many people still recognize, and the Denver Mint, identified by the D Mint mark, produced hundreds of millions of these coins in that year. Yet hidden among the common circulation strikes were a very small number that contained remarkable errors, the kinds of anomalies that could only happen through very specific mishaps during production, making them stand out as numismatic treasures. And one of the most significant factors that influenced the value of a 1997 quarter is its mint mark error, because the placement, clarity, or even doubling of the mint mark can drastically affect a coin's desirability, and collectors often search for examples where the mint mark was either misplaced, repunched, faint, or appears in a distorted manner, since such features are not only rare but nearly impossible to replicate without original mint machinery, meaning authenticity can be verified by experts, and these errors occur because during the production process mint marks were traditionally punched by hand into the die in earlier years, though by the 1990s much of the process had shifted, still leaving room for unusual outcomes. And with the 1997 quarter we see examples where the mint mark looks slightly off or doubled, making those coins candidates for significant valuation increases. And beyond mint mark errors there are other striking anomalies such as off-center strikes, where the coin is not aligned properly with the dies and thus shows an incomplete image or design that is shifted, leaving blank planchette space visible, which can dramatically increase value depending on how far off-center the strike is, since minor misalignments are relatively common but large off-center strikes are highly sought after. And then there are double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin carries duplicated features, resulting in doubled images on the lettering, numbers, or design elements, and such errors are particularly popular with collectors because they are visually striking and easy to identify with the naked eye, and when combined with a coin as relatively modern as the 1997 D quarter, which still exists in circulation, the thrill of finding one is immense. And then we must consider planchette errors, which involve the blank metal discs before they are struck, as sometimes coins were struck on improperly prepared planchets, or even on planchets intended for other denominations, leading to mismatched weights, colors, or metallic compositions, and there have been reports of quarters struck on nickel or cent planchets, which would make the coin dramatically lighter and smaller, instantly recognizable as unusual, and such wrong planchette errors are among the most valuable finds in the coin world, and if one of the 1997 D quarters was struck in this manner, its value could easily reach into the hundreds of thousands of dollars because of the rarity, and the appeal is compounded by the fact that this was a transitional time just before the state quarters program, so collectors have an additional emotional and historical connection to coins from 1997, and when we look at auction records and numismatic discussions, it becomes clear that coins like the 1997 D Washington quarter with the right set of errors are not merely novelties but are treated as serious investments, with rare specimens trading hands for 6 and sometimes 7 figures depending on their condition, the visibility of the error, and the certification by reputable grading organizations such as PCGS or NGC, because collectors trust these third-party grading services to authenticate and assign condition grades that directly affect value, and for the 1997 D quarter in particular, examples that grade at mint state levels, especially above MS65, combined with visible error characteristics, are the ones that can leap from pocket change to extraordinary wealth, and to understand why collectors are willing to pay up to $760,000 for such a coin, one must appreciate the psychology of rarity, the passion of numismatists, and the simple fact that once a coin with such errors is authenticated, its population is often in the single digits or even unique, making it irreplaceable and a true centerpiece for a high-end collection. And consider how unlikely it is that a single coin out of hundreds of millions produced could contain just the right blend of errors, survive circulation, avoid damage, and end up in the hands of someone willing to recognize its significance. Yet this is exactly what has happened in multiple cases with coins of similar status, leading to extraordinary prices, and when a coin achieves such a legendary reputation it creates a ripple effect in the collecting community, inspiring more people to search their change, submit coins for grading, and fuel the demand further. And this is why stories of rare quarters, pennies, dimes, and nickels continue to surface in headlines, because the allure of finding a fortune in spare change resonates with everyone, and the 1997 D quarter sits right in the heart of this narrative, with its potential mint mark errors, striking mistakes, planchette anomalies, and overall scarcity in top condition, all contributing to its remarkable valuation, and it is important to remember that not every 1997 D quarter is valuable. In fact, the overwhelming majority remain worth just 25 cents, but what makes the subject so compelling is that within the mountain of ordinary coins there may be a handful of extraordinary ones, and that possibility is enough to keep collectors searching tirelessly. And so if you have a jar of old change at home or a collection passed down from family, it is worth taking a closer look, because one of those quarters might just contain the subtle signs of an error that transforms it into a life-changing discovery. And the journey of this coin from everyday circulation to million-dollar treasure illustrates the fascinating intersection of history, economics, craftsmanship, and sheer luck that defines the world of numismatics. And in closing, it is worth emphasizing that coins like the 1997 D Washington quarter with extraordinary value are not simply mistakes but rather pieces of history frozen in metal, each era telling a story of the minting process, the evolution of technology, and the passion of collectors who seek them, and their worth is measured not just in dollars but in the awe and excitement they inspire, reminding us that sometimes the most ordinary objects can hold the most extraordinary secrets, and that is why this coin has captured such attention and continues to be one of the most intriguing topics among rare coin enthusiasts, making it clear that something as simple as a $2 minted in Denver in 1997 can indeed be worth as much as $760,000 under the right circumstances, and that is a story worth telling again and again for anyone who has ever dreamed of discovering hidden treasure in the palm of their hand. Where today we will dive deep into the mystery, history, and extraordinary value of one very special coin, the 1998 D Washington quarter dollar from the United States of America, a coin that at first glance looks like just another ordinary piece of change that you might find in your pocket or receive back from a store, yet because of certain rare minting errors, mistakes, variations, and unique circumstances tied to its production, this coin has reached a staggering valuation of nearly $200,000, making it a prime example of how sometimes the smallest details can transform something with a face value of just 25 cents into a prized possession for collectors and enthusiasts worldwide. And as we unfold this incredible story, we will not only discuss the features of the Washington quarter but also explain how mint mark anomalies, striking mistakes, planchette defects, double dies, off-center strikes, and other possibilities contribute to such astronomical value. So let's begin with the basics of the Washington quarter, which was first introduced in 1932 to honor the bicentennial of George Washington's birth, a coin that has remained a staple in American currency ever since, with countless millions produced across decades. Yet as mass production tends to go, errors and variations sometimes slip through the rigorous process at the United States Mint, and it is precisely these rare anomalies that create opportunities for collectors to find value far beyond what they would ever expect. Now specifically when we talk about the 1998 D Washington quarter, we are dealing with a piece struck at the Denver Mint as indicated by the small d mint mark placed on the obverse side of the coin near the image of George Washington. However, in some instances coins have been discovered with mint mark misplacements, doubling, partial stamping, and even faint or missing mint marks, and such issues drastically increase the rarity because they are not part of the standard production run. And in the case of this legendary 1998 D-era quarter, collectors discovered that the combination of striking mistakes, off-center details, and possible planchette irregularities made the coin one of a kind. When people first heard about a quarter being worth $200,000, they were skeptical. Yet in the world of numismatics, such surprises are not unheard of, since there are many examples where seemingly ordinary coins became incredibly valuable due to their unique features. The reason the 1998 D quarter stands out is because certain specimens show doubling on the inscriptions, such as Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, or the date itself, while others have a highly unusual mint mark anomaly where the D appears slightly misaligned, too faint, or even partially filled with excess metal from the minting process. These small imperfections are magnified in importance because serious collectors place immense value on coins that are rare, unique, and nearly impossible to replicate. Consider that millions of 1,998 quarters were minted, yet only a handful of these with errors have survived in high-grade condition, which is why professional grading services like PCGS or NGC play a vital role in authenticating and certifying such coins. And when one of these pieces in pristine condition goes up for auction, the bidding wars can become intense, pushing the price far beyond face value. Now let's imagine for a moment that you are someone who unknowingly has a 1998 D quarter in your change jar. You might not think twice about it because to the naked eye it looks no different from any other quarter, but upon closer inspection under magnification you could discover doubling in the inscriptions, a slight off-center strike, or even a missing detail in the eagle design on the reverse, and suddenly you realize that this coin is not just a quarter but a rare artifact worth a small fortune. Collectors and experts often remind us that it is this element of surprise and discovery that makes coin collecting such an exciting hobby, because anyone, whether a professional dealer or an ordinary person, could stumble upon a rare coin that changes their life, and that is exactly what has happened in the case of the 1998 D Washington quarter. Now to understand why such errors occur, we need to take a closer look at the minting process itself. Coins are produced by striking blank metal discs called planchets with engraved dies under tremendous pressure. And when everything works smoothly, the result is a uniform coin with consistent design, but sometimes a die might become worn, damaged, or improperly engraved, causing doubling or distortion in the details. In other cases a planchette might be flawed, too thin, or clipped on the edge, which creates irregular shapes or off-center strikes. Then there are times when grease, dirt, or debris blocks part of the die, leading to missing details on the coin. And finally the placement of the mint mark itself, which in the 1990s was applied mechanically rather than engraved into the master design, could end up shifted or distorted. All of these errors contribute to rarity and value, and when multiple errors occur on a single coin, the rarity multiplies, which is precisely the case for the 1998 D quarter worth $200,000. Its combination of a mint mark anomaly, double die elements, and off-center strike make it virtually one of a kind, adding to the allure for collectors who always seek the rarest of the rare. And of course the condition of the coin matters tremendously, because a coin in circulated, worn condition may still be valuable but nowhere near as much as one preserved in mint state, high-grade condition. So for those lucky enough to find a pristine 1998 D-era quarter, the payoff is enormous. In auctions such coins have fetched jaw-dropping amounts as enthusiasts compete to add them to their collections. And this is a reminder of the golden rule in coin collecting: rarity, condition, and demand together determine value. Now another fascinating aspect of this coin story is how information spreads through collector communities, online forums, and auction houses, because once word gets out that a certain coin is fetching high prices, more and more people start searching through their own change, hoping to find the same treasure, and this surge in interest further increases demand, driving prices higher. So it becomes a cycle where rarity and hype feed off each other, pushing coins like the 1998 D Washington quarter into legendary status, and in this case the combination of a face value of just 25 cents and a market value of $200,000 creates a powerful contrast that captures everyone's imagination, making people realize that treasures might literally be sitting in their pockets. It is worth noting that throughout history other coins have achieved similar fame, such as the 1955 double-die penny, the 1932 D&S Washington quarters with low mintages, the 2004 Wisconsin quarter with the extra leaf error, or the 1970 S-proof quarter with a double-die obverse, all of which demonstrate how mistakes can turn into fortune, and the 1998 D-era quarter proudly joins this list of numismatic legends. Now let's expand on the possibilities that make such a coin valuable, starting with double dies, where the die itself carries a duplicated impression of the design, causing the letters or numbers to appear doubled. This is one of the most famous types of errors and highly sought after. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin design is not properly aligned with the blank, resulting in partial images. These can range from minor shifts to dramatic misplacements. The more extreme the error, the more valuable the coin. Then we have planchette errors such as clipped planches, where a portion of the coin is missing, or wrong planches, where a quarter is accidentally struck on a nickel or dime blank, and such wrong metal errors are incredibly valuable because they are so rare. Then mint mark anomalies, which in the 1998 D case include a distorted or misplaced D, and these are crucial because the mint mark not only identifies the production location but also serves as a key identifier for collectors. And finally the combination of multiple errors, which is like hitting the jackpot because it multiplies the rarity, and with rarity comes immense value, and so we see how the 1998 D Washington quarter went from being an everyday coin to a collectible worth $200,000. And this story also serves as inspiration for everyone to check their own change carefully, because who knows, you might just have a treasure waiting to be discovered. And as we continue to explore the world of numismatics, it becomes clear that coins are more than just currency. They are pieces of history, art, and craftsmanship, each carrying a story of its creation, circulation, and eventual discovery. And in some cases, like the 1998 D quarter, they become legendary symbols of fortune. So whether you are a seasoned collector or someone just beginning to explore the world of coins, let this tale of the 1998 D Washington quarter inspire you to look closer, study details, and appreciate the hidden value that might be sitting unnoticed in your possession. Because the next time you come across a quarter, it may not just be 25 cents, it might just be the gateway to $200,000. And with that exciting thought, we close this deep dive into the mystery and value of one of the most fascinating quarters ever minted in America, the 1998 D Washington quarter dollar, a coin that proves once again that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest worth, and that the thrill of discovery is what keeps the world of coin collecting alive and thriving, leaving us with endless possibilities and the hope that one day, perhaps soon, we too might stumble upon a hidden gem that changes our lives forever.